Hello, everyone. This Shabbos we start Parashat Vayikra, the third book of the Chumash, Torah Kohanim, as Chazal referred to it, the Torah of the Kohanim. If we want to be a Mamlechet Kohanim and Goy Kadosh, this is the Sefer for us. In fact, we see the very first pasuk, Vayikra el Moshe, right? Rashi talks about it. It's Lashon Chiba. It's Lashon of affection. Like Kadosh Baruch Hu, this is the tremendous ethical and moral teachings of not just for all of us. If you want to be a Mamlechet Kohanim and Goy Kadosh, this is the Sefer where we need to start. And I remember my parents used to subscribe for me back in the day when I was a kid, the magazine Olamenu. I'm dating myself, if anyone remembers Olamenu. And I remember reading not just the comics on the back page, but also the stories that they had. And one story was about a father who had a Ben Skunim and brings his son to the cheder when he's ready to go to start learning Torah. And he says, where do you start from? He says, we start from Vayikra. We start from Vayikra. That is the essence of the Torah. That's the sefer that we start teaching the boys from when they first come to cheder. And later on, the first three prakim are talking about voluntary korbanot, but then in Parak Daled, we read about the chatat, which is a korban you have to bring. And in Parak Daled, pasuk bet, it says, Daber el bnei Yisrael leimu. Nefesh ki techta b'shgaga. Right, we read about the shgaga, about something doing something b'shgaga, someone who does something inadvertently, he does a chet by accident or inadvertently, he wasn't thinking properly. And that is a classical definition of a shogeg. Right? Someone does something wrong by accident, by thinking that it's inadvertently. However, I came across an unbelievable vort by the Ropshitzer Rebbe, Naftali Tzvi Horovitz, who wrote on this in his Sefer Zera Kodesh in the Likutim. After the Mamarim, he has the Likutim, and he writes this idea on this idea of being a shogeg. And it's very interesting, by the way, just a historical footnote, that this teaching, the Zera Kodesh, his Sefer, was not meant to be published. But one of the Ropshitzer Rebbe's main Talmidim was the Divrei Chaim, the Tzanza Rebbe, the first Tzanza Rebbe, and he convinced his Rebbe, the Ropshitzer Rebbe, to publish this Sefer. So that's Baruch Hashem, how we're able to have this limud I'm going to share with you right now. So on the concept of shogeg, what does the Ropshitzer Rebbe say? He says, Ba'asota achad mitzvot Hashem asher lo tasena. When you do one of the mitzvot, he's not talking about the chataim, he's talking about the mitzvah, that this also can be talking about a mitzvah that you're doing. Not necessarily a chet, but a mitzvah that you do. What's the Ropshitzer Rebbe continues? He does the mitzvah, but he does the mitzvah in a way that he should not have done it. So we're all thinking about chataim, and the Ropshitzer Rebbe, and this is the level the Ropshitzer Rebbe is. What a tzaddik that he's thinking about. But forget about my chataim for a moment. No, not forget about for a moment, but am I doing the mitzvot in the proper way? Am I doing mitzvot in the proper kavanah? That came across something similar to this, a wonderful teaching by Rabbi Dr. Twersky, who mamish had such, not only Torah, but such wisdom, and talked about the challenges of addiction. Right? That was his whole psychiatric career. He was the founder of the Gateway Clinic that really was the first clinic that really dealt with substance abuse and dealt with the problems of addiction. And he talks about in one of his sfarim that so many times when we do something by accident, it's not really by accident, right? So he says, because someone who has a tendency to oversleep, he once wrote, right? Someone has a tendency to oversleep and he has an early flight the next morning, which actually I do tomorrow morning, and I'll be nervous about it. So what will I do? And Rabbi Twersky mentioned, you set like 2-3 alarms, right? To make sure that you not only, you build in the snooze to make sure that you'll wake up. If something is important to you, if something you have a serious commitment to, you'll make sure to get it done. If something is that important to you. And so when I think about the mitzvot that we do regularly, I think of two. There's so many, and you can make it personal. When I think about tefillah and I think about Shabbos, right? And being in a rush, right? So often people rush out of davening. They're barely in Aleinu. The tefillin come off, and they're already thinking. It's already during Tachnun or the Ashrei about where they're heading next. They're rushing out of davening, and the opposite is sometimes we often rush into Shabbos before we have a chance. We also rush into, to be honest, we also rush into minyan. People who mincha is at 4:00. they get there, they rush in. Either they get there just at 4 o'clock or they're getting there a few minutes late, but rushing into Shabbos. Rabbi Moshe Zatzal once said about the Jews of America, but the Jews of America were able to save Shabbos. Baruch Hashem, they were able to save Shabbos, he said, but they weren't able to save Erev Shabbos. And so how many of us on an Erev Shabbat, we rush into Shabbos, right? I speak to many people who live in Chutz La'aretz. Baruch Hashem, in Eretz Yisrael, we do have an Erev Shabbos, a beautiful, beautiful idea. Such a wonderful thing. But so many people I speak to, what are the preparations for Shabbos? They come home, they're still wearing the suit that they went to work in, especially in the wintertime. They take their phone out, they take their wallet out, the keys, they put it on the dresser drawer. That's their preparations for Shabbos. We're rushing. We're so often in a rush. How does that affect our kavanah to mitzvot? And if we make a kavua like that, I think this is what one of the main limudim of the Ropshitzer Rebbe. If that's the way we make it kavua, is it still shogeg? Is it still inadvertent? Is it still by accident? So Bezrat Hashem, as we begin the Sefer Vayikra, the Torah Kohanim, as I said in the beginning, we aspire to be Mamlechet Kohanim B'Goy Kadosh. We have to, of course, look at, to minimize any chatat, chas v'shalom that we do. But it's also important to look at, are we doing our mitzvot in a proper way, in a proper hitlahavut, in a proper excitement, in a proper kavanah, a proper intention, in a proper way to be able to uplift ourselves and bring ourselves into Shabbos, bring ourselves into davening, and bring ourselves into a wonderful space of shmirat mitzvot and of limud Torah. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Thank you so much.